Hello and welcome to this review to Space Hulk Deathwing, a first-person shooter similar to Left 4 Dead or Vermintide, where you fight your way through hordes of aliens on board a giant spacecraft. The game has been developed by Streum On Studio, the guys who previously developed I Divine Cybermancy. While that game already had a slight Warhammer 40k vibe going on, Deathwing now is a full 40k game, taking place in this grim vision of the future created by Games Workshop. I try to explain the story in terms a person not entirely familiar with Warhammer 40k will understand. A huge fleet of tyrants, that's a dangerous alien hive mind race, invades the space of the galactic human empire, while at the same time a Space Hulk enters the real world from the Materium. Space Hulk is a giant construct, a mix of various spaceships and rocks which all, over hundreds or even thousands of years, merged into one giant spacecraft. The Dark Angels, an ancient Night Order, scan this giant Space Hulk and detect an old ship of theirs with data from around 10,000 years ago. You are part of the force now entering the Space Hulk to gather that knowledge and to prevent it from falling to the hands of the enemy, while at the same time being under pressure because of the alien swarm fleet closing in. And the Space Hulk itself, of course, is filled with the so-called gene stealers, which are some kind of Terminator covered ops, and their mutant hybrid allies, which are half human, half alien, which are all throwing themselves at you in very big numbers. You act as the leader of a three-man squad. With you are Brother Nahum, an apothecary, and Brother Rayfield, an all-rounder. Yourself are a psyker, which can be described as some kind of mage, who is able to use all kinds of weapons in addition to his psychic abilities. The question is, of course, is the story any good, well presented, epic? The answer is, well, it's alright. The 140k fan will find the various hints and topics which are mentioned quite interesting, but everyone else will probably just jump from mission to mission without understanding many of the additional info. The relevance of the discovery on board the old Dark Angel ship is not really understandable for someone not familiar with this universe, and the dull presentation without any cutscenes and the simple voiced mission intros are not really helping either. The story does its job tying the 9 chapters together quite well, is coherent and fitting to the universe. And after all, people are playing this game for the shooting, not the plot. So let's go over to the game itself. What exactly do you do and is it fun? The campaign leads you through several parts of the Space Hulk which differ in design. Large galleries and halls, narrow corridors, and big rooms full of machinery or rubble. Since you're aiming for the lost Dark Angel ship, you're always on the move deeper into the Hulk. From time to time the mission objectives vary though. For example, you're supposed to stem the tide of the alien gene stealers by closing giant blast doors or by destroying some of their lairs. The main objective, however, is regularly put into context with your current action. You're never losing track of what's actually going on. While I mentioned different kinds of levels, don't expect a mix of dark narrow corridors and brightly lit halls. Space Hulk is a dark place and it's lifeless, except for you and a xeno. You will stumble over lots of still working technology, fighter planes and lots of skeletons. The levels certainly are different in their layout due to the different kinds of ships you're passing through, but in the end you're mostly running through various corridors. This may not be the most exciting setting, but it's absolutely how a Space Hulk should look like. Sites like these are probably the most awe-inspiring ones you will see in the game. It wouldn't be a Space Hulk if you weren't encountering gene stealers on every corner, of course, and this pretty much is what happens. Your enemies can come from almost every direction, often also from the ceiling or shafts in the ground. The corridors make it quite easy to gun down enemies in great numbers, but if you get into more open areas there will be aliens storming at you from various directions, plus a bunch of hybrids shooting at you with various weapons from a distance. The variety here is fine. There are several types of gene stealers, from fairly small ones which are only dangerous in groups, over warrior versions which use a range attack before entering melee, to really huge boss type monsters like the Size or the Broodlord, which can wipe out a Terminator with ease. A game like this heavily depends on the proper AI, of course, and well, Space Hulk Deathwing does it relatively well. Since we're not talking about brainless zombies like in Left 4 Dead though, I was expecting a little bit more than hordes of xeno always blindly storming at you. Maybe some wall or seal running, or simply more surprise attacks. The screams of the aliens allow you to prepare in advance, making the almost invisible stalkers the only enemies which can actually attack you unexpectedly. The sheer amount of gene stealers storming at you makes them a big threat anyway though. I'd also wish for my colleagues to be a little bit cleverer, reacting better to nearby threats for example. They are not dead weight though, and especially Barathil, equipped with a Thunder Hammer and Shield, is doing a great job at being a tank. Let's talk a little bit about loadouts then. In this menu you can equip yourself and your 2 colleagues with various weapons. By progressing in the story you slowly unlock new weapons for yourself. Your battle brothers don't get any new equipment. Even worse, not only is their choice already rather limited, Brother Nahum can only use his Nathakium, which enables him to heal his colleagues when wielding the Stormbolter. If you give him any other weapon, he can't use his apothecary tool anymore, and without a healer you really have a big problem. Some weapons like the las cannon or chainswords are completely missing. Depending on how well you do, there are missions to gain points with which you can unlock new talents. Most of them are passives though, making the whole unlocking thing quite boring. It looks more like something simply put into the game to be able to say, hey, we have a progression system. You also rarely notice the effect of the talents. 10% more armor, 30% faster hacking. The most interesting ones are the new active psychic abilities, which can indeed be very devastating. Even if you perform really well, you won't gain enough points to max out everything though. Later on you also unlock some customization items for your character, which are applied automatically. Overall, I'm pretty disappointed by the lack of customization in general. Your AI battle brothers have a very limited selection and there's no manual visual customization for any of your guys. Throughout the levels you can collect several relics, which increase your score and can be viewed in between missions, like you can see right here. They don't serve any other purpose though, those items are only collectibles. A missed opportunity in my opinion. Some final notes on this topic. You have unlimited ammo. Granted it kinda fits the setting, but is a weird feeling at first. You also have access to an always usable warp portal, which teleports you out of the danger back to your base and revives killed allies. Here you can change the equipment and then go back right where you left, mid-battle. Slightly weird, but well, you can only do this a limited amount of times and doing so lowers your score. Something I found really immersion breaking was the fast disappearance of corpses and blood on the ground. That takes away a lot of the atmosphere, but probably boosts performance, and is especially annoying if one of your battle brothers dies mid-fight without you noticing, and you're not even seeing his body anymore. There's no free saving, only autosaves, and during loading you always get the whole mission intro narrated to you again. It gets especially infuriating when you reload a certain scene several times because of dying repeatedly thanks to some boss, for example. If you finish the campaign but still don't have enough of the game, maybe the multiplayer is something for you. With up to 3 other Dark Angels you can go back into the Space Hulk and replay the campaign or only single missions in co-op. Deathwing doesn't feature any in-game voice chat, so you either have to team up with friends or simply don't behave like an idiot when playing with randoms. The latter works quite well if all 4 players stick to this idea. The devs split up the 3 characters from the single-player campaign into 5 classes, each being more specialized and having a more limited choice of equipment. To make a squad work properly, this of course means being at least a little bit reasonable when choosing roles. A healer and a tank should be in every group. Otherwise the gameplay is very similar to the single-player campaign, of course, with one big difference. There's no storytelling going on, and you gain XP by fighting, which gives you access to additional ability and items. This progression is not permanent however, but only stays for the current game. I think they missed an opportunity here, an incentive to continue playing in co-op, even if it would have been just a bunch of unlockable customization items which made you look more badass. Even now there still are random connection troubles, but things have improved much compared to the situation at launch. Things are far from perfect, however there's still enough room for improvements. With some love they could really make the co-op a ton of fun. Talking about room for improvements, performance-wise the game was a mess at release, with massive random frame drops and crashes. While I was spared the crashes, the frame drops were very noticeable in certain levels. Since they published 2 hotfixes, which helped a great deal in regards to stability, I gained around 15 to 20 frames in the previously low performance levels. Something that didn't change though are the long loading times when starting the game or returning to the main menu after playing. The graphical quality overall is pretty good. I'm especially impressed with the awesome looking Terminator armoured weapons. Those are made with really great attention to detail. From time to time you stumble over some muddy textures, which is a visual annoyance, but in general there isn't really anything to complain about except for the animations, which look a little bit stiff. Going over to the sound, the voices are alright. They sound like I expected a Space Marine to sound, but could use a little bit more enthusiasm. Have a listen to a mission intro by Grandmaster Belial and another one by your main character.
We are picking up a faint Dark Angel's beacon signal from a point where no warrior from the chapter should be. It seems to originate from the cluster of ships we believe may contain an ancient Dark Angel's vessel. You must secure the site and investigate the beacon's origin. Proceed with caution, brother. The secrets of the past pursue us.
It was time for the final battle. With praise for the Emperor on our lips, we set upon the enemy with vigor. Our battle cry filled the Vox. For the Emperor! For the Lion!
Sound effects are solid, while overall fitting and atmospheric, some guns could definitely use a little bit more boom, for example the assault cannon. And overall all sound effects fitting to the Warhammer 40k setting could simply use a little bit more, well, epicness. If a whole part of the space hull gets blown up behind you, I expect a little bit more than just muffled explosions and shaky scream. Space Hulk Deathwing doesn't have any background music, but that's not a negative point for me. It helps the atmosphere by not playing some pseudo-tense soundtrack during fights, letting you focus on the bolter fire and the screams of the aliens, of course. While the controls are intuitive and responsive, giving commands to your squad mates via combo rows like in Battlefield is a little bit cumbersome. Originally I was hoping for a system like in Star Wars Republic Commando, because that one worked really well. Judging the game has been a little bit hard for me. I definitely had my fun during the 7-hour long campaign and I don't regret buying it, not like other games that then refunded. But I can't fully recommend Space Hulk Deathwing right now. For a Warhammer 40k fan, this game will probably be more enjoyable than to someone who's unfamiliar with this universe, since the game world and the story takes lots of its fascination from the references to it. For me, the game definitely nails the atmosphere, and the fighting itself is a lot of fun, slicing, shooting or burning your way through hordes of enemies. On the other hand, it lacks visual as well as gameplay related highlights. It's very much the same thing for 7 hours, just with some different backgrounds. The simple progression system and the very limited customization options are another negative point, and also add no replay value to an already rather short game. The technical state on release was a disgrace, but at least it looks like devs are willing to do their best to fix that point quickly. In addition to the hotfixes, they have recently announced another bigger update for this month. The current state of the game can easily be improved with fixes and updates to at least make it a good game. Not an outstanding one, but that would have required a AAA budget and team size. To add longevity to the game, Streum On Studio should definitely think about more and free content to the game. Then it can definitely become an enjoyable experience, especially so in co-op, I imagine. It would be cool to have more maps or whole campaigns and a reworked progression system, especially for the multiplayer part. Till then I can only give a just for fans recommendation and advice to either wait or look for a sale somewhere. In my opinion, it's not worth €40 in its current state. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.
Incoming warrior Streum.